Right.
Let's see. I'm just looking down the list of things here. How are you doing on time, Tim? I know.
I'm good.
Okay, awesome. So
I got no time. I got no restrictions.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So, okay. One more thing I want to get into real quick. And then we're going to wrap up today's episode. We're going to give our predictions for TakeOver and SummerSlam happening this weekend. So with that being said, I want to get into something here that's been on my mind for the last couple weeks. And so this weekend is SummerSlam. And for anyone who's been paying attention, it will mark the 1-year anniversary of the debut, the in-ring debut of The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And so I first realized this a couple weeks ago, and then it got me kind of thinking. It's like, okay, it's been 1 year, and I just started thinking about his year on Raw and SmackDown respectively, and just how this whole year's played out. So kind of like reviewing this first year run of The Fiend, and I was like, God, I mean, a lot of stuff has happened in the last year outside of just the pandemic alone. And so, for anyone who's lost track of time and whatnot. So last April, that's when Bray Wyatt was taken off TV, I believe, in 2018, end of 2018, got repackaged.
He got hurt.
Oh, that's right. He got hurt. And then he had the baby, I think, all right, he had a child, or his,
right.
It was a JoJo, right? JoJo.
He and JoJo.
Yeah, he had their first child together. And then he came back early April of 2019 as like the whole Bray Wyatt, Mr. Rogers vibe. And then these vignettes on the Firefly Funhouse. And over the couple months, we started getting these teasers of there's more to him, this whole other side of him, The Fiend, this monster type character. And then first saw The Fiend in person, I think it was in July, I believe, taking out Finn Balor, which led to their match at last year's SummerSlam. And we saw The Fiend make its in-ring debut, amazing entrance and whatnot. And then with that being said, it's definitely been a bumpy ride for The Fiend.
Very.
So, I guess, Tim, I'm just curious, I guess we'll start kind of big and work our way down as far as what was your initial thoughts on this first year of The Fiend? And then we can talk about some of the highs and lows, but just your take on this first year existence of The Fiend character.
I feel like when he first came out at SummerSlam, had that different look to him, different vibe, different feel of anything we've seen of Bray Wyatt, but you could still tell, okay, that's Bray Wyatt.
Okay.
I can tell that is Wyndham Rotunda. That's something he probably came up with. It fits the whole Wyatt universe motif kind of deal, keeping it in the horror genre as he likes, And at SummerSlam, I think he hit his ceiling that first night.
Really?
Because ever since then, and not nothing on his doing.
Okay.
It's just how he's been used by the company since SummerSlam.
Yeah, it's God. I mean, what's kind of cool is there's been some different YouTubers posting various videos, kind of like reviewing or reflecting on this first year of The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And so I was watching some of that in preparation. And it was like, whoa, okay, I forgot about this and that. And yeah, anytime a wrestler's gone for a significant amount of time, and Bray, his character definitely by 2018 definitely need a refresher, because at that last point, was it him and Matt Hardy were teaming up? He was kind of losing.
Tag team champions on Raw.
Yeah, tag team champions, but then also he was kind of losing a little bit, and I think he kind of lost his whole momentum as the Wyatt family cult leader, whatever you want to call it. So I just felt like he kind of just lost his momentum, and it was due for a gimmick change. And so when he went away, I was like, okay, good. This is probably a good opportunity. Obviously, heal up from his injuries, and just probably reevaluate who he is and what he wants to be presented. And so when we saw the new package of him as Bray Wyatt, the host of the Firefly Funhouse, I was watching this. I was like, what the hell are we watching? But then at the same time, it was very intriguing. It was something different that we have not seen before. And just the use of the puppets. And I was like, all right, this is something very creative that we haven't seen from any other wrestler in a long time. And I was trying to suspend my disbelief and just watch what's being presented to me as, real life, if I want to call it that.
Right.
And it's tough because here we are in 2020. I think it's safe to say kayfabe is dead in some ways. And And those type of mythical performers are very just lost in the past. I mean, like growing up, I was a huge fan, obviously, the Undertaker and just the whole dead man zombie gimmick. I was also a fan of like the Dungeon of Doom and WCW, and just how Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster, and just has his crony of monsters living in a cave that Hogan went to go looking for. Like, I loved all that stuff. And so I was associating this new Bray Wyatt / Fiend character along those lines. I was like, okay, this is like, he's in his own little universe that he occasionally wrestles. And so I was trying to really just take it for what it is. But I think, unfortunately, the booking of him has been very poor. And so the character itself and the segments and the vignettes have been awesome, but the booking of him has been really bad. And so that's why I feel like the character has lost a little bit. But then, like, I don't know. I'm rambling here about this because it's a really tough, I think, situation to talk about. So I guess what I'm getting at is, one, okay, for anyone, how would you describe what the Fiend is, or Bray Wyatt, this current incarnation?
I would say Bray Wyatt. So this is how I've tried to explain the current Bray Wyatt.
Okay.
Bray Wyatt has multiple he's going through split personality disorder.
Okay.
He's Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt, but then at times he's the Fiend. But there have been times when you see somebody that has this quote unquote split personality disorder, which is a real thing, they actually refer to their other quote unquote personality as he, she, they, just like Bray has, thinking that's not me. That's a different person you're talking about. That I'm not doing any of that. That's somebody else. And he does that with the Fiend. He's coming. He wants to get you, he wants your title, So that's how I explain the Bray Wyatt character is.
Okay.
Split personality disorder. He's got the Bray Wyatt, Mr. Rogers character, but he's also got the Fiend. Sometimes they intertwined. Most of the time, though, they're kept separate.
Yeah, and we've seen that as far as depending on the match and the matchup. The Fiend initially has been wrestling, but then at times we've seen just Bray Wyatt wrestle in his full slacks and sweater coming out to the ring. So it's an interesting character, and like for me, I've been trying to understand what the presentation is, and unfortunately, I don't think like WWE or some of the commentators have done a good job, kind of maybe establishing the whole point of this character or what the character is about. Like early on, we saw, like, I think in the background of the Firefly Funhouse, or I guess I'm going to get it. It's the Firefly Funhouse. Obviously, that's like his home away from the ring, his hangout spot. He's surrounded by these various puppets that talk to him. Those are his friends. And in the background, we saw all these different photos of various WWE superstars, people from his past that he's interacted with and done stuff with. And, a lot of them he's lost to. So I kind of was trying to associate, okay, these are people from his past that has wronged him in some way. And this new gimmick, it's his way of kind of get revenge on the WWE roster. Is that a safe analogy there?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And so with that being said, depending on the person who he lashes onto, he's going to go after them. And so Finn Balor, that was like his first victim, I guess you want to call it that. And I know he was attacking various other people at one point. Like I think he took out Mick Foley one night and Kane and some other people. And then next up, where I think was kind of the beginning of some bad booking, was obviously the whole Seth Rollins matchup. And I was like, wow, they're putting him in a Universal Championship program already, his second program with someone. And I was like, there's no way they can skyrocket the title on him that quickly. So I guess I'm curious from your standpoint, like what do you think about that whole Seth Rollins rivalry at the time?
So the one thing that they flubbed was that after SummerSlam, Seth Rollins was the champion, Universal Champion. Him and Braun Strowman were the tag team champions. And then Braun says, I want a title match. So they're going into that next pay-per-view. But a couple of days before that, they start advertising Hell in a Cell and saying that the Fiend is going to be in the cell fighting for the title. So all of a sudden, it's like, oh, you just gave that away. Now, and so they had to, I assume, shift things to now the promotion was the Fiend will be challenging either Braun Strowman or Seth Rollins, whoever comes out of the pay-per-view, the champion. And so it was kind of just like, I don't think they're going to go Braun, because I didn't think that Braun would win the title from Seth anyways then.
Mm-hmm.
But them doing the whole accidentally advertising it early and then changing the advertising kind of gave it away that, okay, Seth's going to win. Then they're going to go into Hell in a Cell. But what is this match even for? Why are they doing this match? Yeah. What has The Fiend done to earn a title shot? Like you said, just throwing him in there. And then when have we ever seen a Hell in a Cell match get just stopped for excessive violence?
I know, dude. Like,
isn't that what the Hell in a Cell is supposed to be for?
Yeah, the Hell
where you guys can have as much carnage and do as much crazy stuff as you want, but keep it confined inside this cell so nobody else gets hurt.
Absolutely. Like the psychology of the Hell in a Cell, it's supposed to it's like the last resort to end a rivalry. It's like, okay, we've wrestled normal matches, we've done this and that. It's like, this is the last straw, the last time we're going to face each other, and we're going to just lay it all out there in a Hell in a Cell. But this was their first matchup against each other, and it's like, wait, why there?
And don't get me started on how they've ruined the aura of the Hell in a Cell match.
Oh my God, absolutely. Besides it being painted red and all that stuff,
well, I'm fine with that. But it's us. We have to have a Hell in a Cell match every October. It's like we got to do the Royal Rumble every January. Who's going to be in it?
Yeah,
we got to do Hell in a Cell every October. At least, if you're going to do Hell in a Cell and the theme of the pay-per-view is supposed to be spooky, scary, and hell, do it in November or something, or October, at the end of October near Halloween, not September, early October. Yeah. But that, to me, like you said, Hell in a Cell is supposed to be the last resort and blow off to a feud. We saw it Batista Triple H. We saw it Shawn Michaels Triple H. Undertaker Mick Foley blow-offs, not the first thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I'm not a fan of these gimmick pay-per-views like that, where the main gimmick of the pay-per-view is going to be the name of the pay-per-view as well. So It's like the Hell in a Cell should be a stipulation that calls for it. And so, listen, if you don't have any really intense blood rivalries going on, then yeah, you don't need the Hell in a Cell matchup at that point. Save it for when it's needed and makes that extra special. And that's why I was just frustrated. Like, they're going to make this a regular pay-per-view, so you're going to force a matchup between two people that, sure, they might not like each other and they are going to wrestle each other, but you're just going to throw them in a Hell in a Cell just for the sake of it. Like, as you mentioned, those other great matches, they called for it, and they're just a handful of them that you can list off because it wasn't done all the time. And so, as you said, like, you're forcing these different matches to take place in the Hell in a Cell just because you have the obligation of filling up that pay-per-view for that month. So, yeah, it's like you could do a spooky theme pay-per-view in October around Halloween, but don't force it as a Hell in a Cell selling point right there. I'm with you like that. So and I was there. It was in Sacramento. I have never heard a crowd boo that loud before.
I saw the video. People that were there sent me videos from their phones. 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes after the show, people were still sitting there booing.
Yeah, it was kind of intense. I was like, oh my God. And I sat there and just wanted to take it all in because this is a rare thing to happen. And so I think they realized, okay, we booked ourselves in the corner because we don't want Seth to lose the title right away. And then they came with that wonky finish. And then sure enough, they jump ahead. They had a rematch in Saudi Arabia, and they don't want
3 weeks later.
Yeah, they want to repeat the events again. So they put the belt on him, which I thought was premature to begin with. And so he was champion. And so it's just, I feel like the character is so unique. He doesn't need a championship. He can just, like, his first year should just be focusing on taking out all the people that wronged him in the past. It's like almost like a hit list type of thing.
Right.
And this is something like they really started saying on commentary recently was, and this is an interesting story beat as far as everyone that he beats or defeats somehow, that person becomes change moving forward. And that's something I didn't really pick up on at first, but now it makes sense as far as, okay, Finn Balor, he went away, showed up on NXT, was kind of a heel to start. Seth Rollins, he loses, okay, he becomes the Monday Night Messiah. Daniel Bryan, a little bit reverse. He was the heel at the time, but then he shaved his head and kind of came back as more regular Daniel Bryan babyface. Miz didn't really work out anything in particular. He was just facing him as Bray Wyatt, and it was just a one-time thing. And then,
well, they used it to put Miz on a losing streak to bring in Morrison, basically.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
because the thing was, how I took it was, Miz lost his confidence after the Fiend stuff, and then Morrison came in and was like, "Bro, let's go. You're the Miz. You think you're the best person here, and you're not right now. Step it up.
Yeah. And I'm glad they're back together. And then jumping ahead to WrestleMania, obviously taking on John Cena, and I really enjoyed I know it's not technically a traditional match, but their conflict, I guess you want to call it that.
Right.
Their the whole Firefly Funhouse match. I really enjoyed it and the story that they told here. And he erased John Cena from existence, if you want to call it that. And so
true.
We don't know, when and if John Cena will ever return to WWE. And hopefully when he does, hopefully they'll kind of keep that story going and he might explain how he's a different person now. I don't know how they're going to explain that, but and then Goldberg, I can't believe about Goldberg. That was another one. So they took the title off Goldberg before that at Saudi Arabia, and Goldberg, rumor is he flexed his political muscles as far as not want to lose and job out.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why book that match? And it's a lose-lose because you're going to obviously put the belt on Goldberg, but you're going to sacrifice this great character. But then again, that character shouldn't have been champion in the first place to get stuck in this situation. So anyway, we can ramble on about all that stuff.
You're not wrong.
And then jump ahead to now Braun Strowman. And at first, at Money in the Bank, it was just Braun versus regular Bray Wyatt.
Right.
And he beat him. And then jumped to the Swamp match at Extreme Rules. And it was another, I guess, conflict. I guess it wasn't a traditional match. I wasn't super big on the match there. But we saw it, Braun losing, Bray got him in the water, and then at the very end, the last shot, we see The Fiend return. And so, I was kind of bored with this rivalry at first, but then I remember, was it that Go Home show or the previous episode of SmackDown? Bray Wyatt was saying, excuse me, Braun was like, his job is he needs to stop Bray Wyatt because he doesn't want The Fiend to return. And I was like, okay, that's the motivation here. He's like, he's going to go back to the swamp. His job is to stop Bray Wyatt because he doesn't want The Fiend to return and create havoc on WWE. And then Bray Wyatt was saying, The Fiend wants one out and he wants that title. So, okay, I was like, okay, I'm trying to, the storytelling was a little off, and I'm trying to just focus on the Cliff Notes version of what they're trying to tell here. And so then, The Fiend won or returned, and now it makes sense that The Fiend wants Braun Strowman. And the fact that Braun Strowman technically lost at Extreme Rules, he's a changed man. He's acting very heelish now. They got Alexa Bliss, and so it's going to be this new version of Monster Braun Strowman taking on The Fiend at SummerSlam. So kind of what's your take on this rivalry and kind of like where we're at now storyline wise for SummerSlam?
So looking at The Fiend as a whole, I don't know if you think the same way, but every Fiend match is, the Finn Balor match you can't put into this because it was only, I have it right here in front of me. I have a whole list of those matches.
Oh, nice.
The Bray Wyatt Finn Balor match at SummerSlam last year, it was like 3 minutes max, if I can find it.
Yeah, it was pretty much a squash, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the match was 3 minutes, 25 seconds.
Oh, jeez.
And then after that, he started having 15, 20-minute matches. He had that Hell in a Cell was 17 minutes. Mm-hmm. The match in Saudi Arabia was 20 minutes. He had a 10-minute match with Daniel Bryan at Survivor Series. And other than those Daniel Bryan matches at Survivor Series and Royal Rumble, there's not been a good Fiend match, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that.
I hear you.
I'll go for it.
No, I agree. And I think, luckily, I think Daniel Bryan might have been the best match he's had because, it's Daniel Bryan and he knows how to work. And that was probably his best match to date so far. But yeah, I'm with you. The Fiend has not been like throwing in these amazing 6-star type matches out there.
I wouldn't say he's been throwing up 2.5 to 3-star matches other than the Bryan matches.
Yeah, I hear you. So,
but as far as the Braun Strowman stuff goes, once they did the stuff of Money in the Bank and then Bray kind of disappeared for a little bit, I was like, okay, let's move on. Let's do something different with Braun Strowman. Mm-hmm. Then they screwed all that up where he defended the title against 2 men.
Yes.
Miz and Morrison. That was that was just filler. And then we come back, and when he did the thing with Alexa Bliss, I was like, whoa, this could be something good because we know how close of friends Alexa and Braun are. Mm-hmm. But then when Braun goes, I don't care about Alexa, I go, well, now what?
Yeah.
Where is this going to lead to? Then we had last week on SmackDown where Alexa Bliss was trying to get him to snap out of it. And he finally told us, because, we were supposed to know this, but Braun finally told us, everybody that comes in contact with the Fiend changes for the worst. But Alexa came in contact with the Fiend. She didn't change. Maybe that's because she didn't have a match with him or something. I don't know. And so going into SummerSlam, it's like, who really cares about this? I honestly don't care, because you're going to put the title on, you're going to keep the title on Braun, and then what? Who's he going to feud with on SmackDown? Is he a heel? Is he a babyface? We don't even know that going forward. Then you put the title on Bray Wyatt or Braun, or the Fiend, and the question is going to be, okay, he gets the title, then what? Braun wants a rematch, and we have to keep this going even longer?
Yeah, I'm really confused. Yeah, what they're trying to go here. And listen, I do appreciate the Braun saying, okay, whoever loses to the Fiend changes. I'm like, okay. And then
it does make stuff make sense.
Exactly. And then he's like reflecting on the last year of all the different competitors he's had. And I'm like, okay. Then you can say Finn changed a bit. Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins. Like, okay, now it makes sense. But it took a long time to kind of get there. And I guess kind of like, was it like Sixth Sense at the very end? You realize, oh, that's what all that meant. And so, but it took a long time. And like I said, it's kind of a little bit of sloppy storytelling up to this point. And so I'm kind of curious what Alexa Bliss' involvement is. I mean, we know that, Bray's trying to play mind games with Braun, and now they're trying to connect the dots with the mixed match tag challenge a couple years ago that, Braun had a crush on her, and now they're trying to tap into that. And so is the Fiend trying to bait in Braun Strowman by kidnapping, holding Alexa Bliss hostage, even though it was a week she was supposedly hostage, but yet she looked the same on each episode of SmackDown. She didn't look disheveled or stressed out. She looked all dolled up pretty. I'm like, come on, like make her look a little like upset, like she's been hiding for the last week in like Bray Wyatt's lair or something. But come from a story standpoint, like really sell the fact that she's been like in horror for the last week in between episodes of SmackDown. But yeah, now Braun is acting all heelish and doesn't care about her. So I don't know what's going to happen at SummerSlam as far as, is Alexa Bliss going to be the one to snap Braun out of it and bring him back to regular Braun that we've been seeing as of late? Or does she turn on him and join Bray Wyatt officially as part of the Fiend's, group now? I don't know. So I hope they kind of finish this story and at least rewrite it enough so that it makes sense of what we've been seeing over the last few months. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, either way, wherever they go, I mean, Alexa Bliss has to somehow be involved in the match. I don't think she's going to come out at the start, but I think maybe something's going to happen in the middle or 3/4 of the way through it that calls for her to come out. Maybe Braun starts slipping in and out of whatever heelish thing he's doing, and we see these moments of, whoa, what is Braun doing? Why is Braun, like, maybe Braun's wrestling like a heel, and then all of a sudden he like slows down and stops. Like maybe he overpowers the Fiend at one point and he's got the Fiend down, but then he starts thinking like, what am I doing? And so Alexa comes down and she's like, I see it. You're Braun Strowman. This is what I've been telling you for the last week. You need to think of yourself as the Braun Strowman I know. And then maybe he snaps out of it, or she comes down, causes a distraction because of all of that, and the Fiend gets the win, and then he gets even more mad at Alexa Bliss.
Yeah. Or watch power or love overcomes everything else, and like she kisses him or something. I don't know. I mean, something's going to happen. So, like I said, I know we're running long right now, but I think like we could kind of maybe talk more about Bray Wyatt at a later time. We'll react obviously based on what happened at SummerSlam here. So it's going to be interesting, and like I'm really curious from everyone out there. Please hit me up. At In The Kliq, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Let me know your thoughts on the Bray Wyatt, his first year, the Fiend's first year in existence, all that stuff. So it's a fun conversation nonetheless, even though there's been highs and lows. But anyway, it's an interesting discussion about this character and just, as far as the bigger picture of pro wrestling and how they book people. And it's like I said, this is, I think, a very much an open-ended discussion. And like, we'll wait till SummerSlam finishes out. We can really see how this character has been played out now, and just hopefully this is something they can keep going with moving forward. So, all right, let's go ahead and wrap up this episode, we'll just do our quick predictions for NXT TakeOver 30 and then SummerSlam. So I think this will be kind of fun. Just I don't get to do enough predictions normally. So I was like, you know what? It's a big weekend. We got 2 big shows. I want to just kind of break it all down and just kind of, go through the list. So what I'll do, Tim, is let's start with NXT TakeOver 30. And so last night's episode of NXT was the go home show before TakeOver this weekend. It's going to be live at Full Sail this Saturday, which kind of bums me out that they're not going to be at the Thunderdome. I was kind of hoping that they're going to spend all this time and money building up, this whole facility for future TV episodes of Raw, SmackDown, and pay-per-views. But I kind of get it, though. They probably want, obviously, SmackDown to get the initial hoorah of like, oh my God, check out awesome this new setup is. And then maybe the first pay-per-view should be the SummerSlam pay-per-view.
So Triple H's whole thing on the media call, he was asked about that. And he said, we have a great relationship with Full Sail University. We love working with them, and we don't want to sever anything with that relationship.
Interesting. It's I think it's kind of a good PR answer. Probably like versus reality. Vince said, no, you guys stay over there. You stay in your own your backyard over there and work out. So
maybe that's the thing. Triple H didn't want to move it and have Vince there and be like, oh, change this, this, and this.
Oh, yeah, he's there. He's like, what's this? Oh, I like this guy.
Vince probably doesn't even know where Full Sail is.
He's like, Full Sail? Is that a boat or something? What's going on? But no, I'm totally with you. It's like, Triple H is like, I'm gonna keep my guys, my guys and gals away from Vince. I don't want to see any of them. Like you'll probably see Damian Priest be like, "Ooh, I want him on Raw now. Give me him or something." Anyway,
he's gonna see Bronson Reed and go, "Oh my God, we need to team him with Otis."
Which, by the way, Otis, I think that's a whole nother. That was honestly because of the other breaking news. I did have that as a topic. Otis as the Money in the Bank winner right now, and just how forgotten that whole thing has become. Oh, yeah. And even I noticed that he's been slimming down lately too. So anyway, like I said, we'll get into that maybe another time. I think that Otis, the whole Otis phenomenon the last couple months is also very fun to talk about. So all right, so for NXT TakeOver, the matches this week. So now we officially have 6. They've between last night and then this morning, they kind of announced a couple more stuff. So we'll go down the card real quick. So the pre-show, which is going to believe start at 3:30. Our time here on the West Coast on the WWE Network. It's going to be a triple tag team match to determine the new number 1 contenders for the NXT Tag Team Championships, taking on the guys in Imperium down the road. So we got Breezango, we got Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, and also Legado del Fantasma. Been practicing, if you can tell. So the 3 of them, or the 3 teams, are going to be going at it. Which, by the way, I was interesting to hear them announce this match on the pre-show, because sometimes they do it and sometimes they don't. But keep in mind, AEW Dynamite is running or crossing over around the same time. So they probably thought, let's throw an extra match out there so it gives people a reason to tune away from Dynamite to watch the pre-show. That's kind of
if the NBA game doesn't run long, then Dynamite's supposed to start at 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll start a pre-show at 3:30 and we'll have a match there too. So
I mean, they were always going to do the pre-show.
Yeah.
But having a match on it, it's always hit and miss when they do a pre-show match for NXT.
Exactly. So, I mean, I know in the past, before they were on USA Network, they used that first hour for dark matches to film the next week's episode of NXT. But now, since they're live, they're going to throw a match our way. So who's you kind of thinking is going to win this one and take on Imperium down the road?
Honestly, I don't think it really matters.
Yeah.
But when the match was announced, the only names that kept sticking in my head were Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, for the sole fact I think that them versus Imperium would just be a really cool, fun match.
Yeah, and also, they kind of had a little back and forth. I remember a couple weeks ago, right, on NXT, they had a little confrontation. Breezango, I mean, they just faced them, if I remember correctly, in the last couple weeks. And for Legado del Fantasma, I feel like this is such a new hot stable right now. It's easier to lose here by way of not eating a pin.
Correct.
So why would you want them to win here and then eventually lose to Imperium?
Unless they want that group to have every man with gold.
That too. That's what I was also thinking. Is like they could win here and then they can beat Imperium, because Imperium's been hit or miss as far as their appearances go. And
exactly.
So Escobar could be the NXT Cruiserweight Champion, and the other two could be the NXT Tag Champions. But I don't know if they're still so fresh, new team, if those two guys deserve to be NXT Tag Champions so soon. So I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of leaning towards Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch. Just, that's a match that they can have like a barn burner with Imperium down the road, and they kind of have a little bit of history together, so they can totally go at it. But then, and like I said, I think Breezango can totally eat the pin, and then Legado del Fantasma, they can be, hidden off somewhere, or, they won't, they'll lose the match technically on paper, but they didn't eat the pin. So that's what I was kind of thinking with that one. And then let's see, we also see going to be, this was announced this morning, Finn Balor taking on Timothy Thatcher. We saw their little confrontation at the end of last night's episode. Who are you thinking is going to take this one?
I mean, it has to be Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher was riding a high coming off of his defeat of Matt Riddle in the, what do they call it? The NXT fight cage or fight pit.
Yeah.
And he was on a high. They were doing all those vignettes of him teaching people how to do submissions. Mm-hmm. And then what happens? He loses by submission.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
So I think
triple threat. Yeah.
They got to rehab Timothy Thatcher. He has to win here. I don't like them beating Finn Balor, but if he's going to get over by beating anybody, Finn Balor's a good one for him to beat.
Totally. And yeah, you're right. They got to rebuild Timothy Thatcher because he was on a hot streak and he lost. He didn't qualify for the ladder match. And when he got, you said submitted. So it makes sense. You got to start rebuilding him. And what better way than getting a big win over a former NXT champion? All right, then let's see. Let's jump over to the ladder match here for the vacant NXT North American Championship. So we currently have the roster filled now. We're going to have Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Cameron Grimes, and then Johnny Gargano and Velveteen Dream. And listen, we know Velveteen Dream has a lot of drama or just stuff surrounding him, some negative stuff surrounding him, and it's been all over the news and whatnot. So let's just focus on the match here. So just, who do you think is going to take this vacant championship that Keith Lee gave up not too long ago?
I think it's really going to be Damian Priest.
Okay, so that was my initial pick as well. But then part of me was like, Cameron Grimes could totally be a chicken ass, heel and like steal a victory when no one else is looking, or grab that ladder and steal it. But then Bronson Reed, he held the title last night at the end of the show, but I'm like, okay, that might be obvious that he's not going to win. Like, he was the last one to hold it. But then last night was so overbooked, that main event. Everyone was touching the title. Everyone was getting their licks in. And he's only technically the babyface in this match. I mean, Damian Priest is kind of in the middle right now, but I was
Damian Priest is technically a babyface.
Okay.
Here's my thinking of Damian Priest. Okay. Damian Priest has been a heel since he came into WWE. He was a former Punishment Martinez.
Yep.
And going into the last TakeOver, he was feuding with Finn Balor.
Okay.
He goes in there, has an amazing match with Finn, gets just this great response on social media, and they immediately go, no, the fans love this guy. He needs to be a babyface. So they shoehorn him in there with Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes is the ultimate heel right now in NXT. Damian Priest is now the babyface. And I think they see Damian Priest as somebody they can really push going forwards. Mm-hmm. So why not put the North American title on him and see how far he can really go as a cool babyface?
Absolutely. And listen, we know Vince loves his big men. And, he does Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon's finisher, his version of the Razor's Edge.
Right.
And he had that tremendous matchup with Finn Balor in your house. So it's like kind of as a reward. It's like, okay, let's put a championship on him now. So I could totally see that. And like, all right, I'm going to go with my gut initially when the tournament was first announced for this ladder match. Damian Priest. All right, let's jump it over. Let's see, to the women's championship. So we have champion Io Shirai taking on Dakota Kai. I mean, this is kind of obvious who's winning here, right?
Well, tell me who you think, and then I'll tell you my whole reasoning for changing my initial thought.
I mean, it has to be Io Shirai retaining here.
Okay, so initially I thought Dakota Kai.
Really?
Like, I was like, she's been around forever. She's been killing it since last year's what was it? That
War
TakeOver
Games?
War Games.
Yeah.
She's been killing it ever since then. My whole thought was, put on Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai keeps saying, oh, I have Raquel Gonzalez, but she's not around anymore. I can do this by myself. Look, I became the #1 contender by myself. I can win the title by myself. So I'm thinking, okay, Put it on Dakota Kai. Io's earmarked to come to the main roster soon anyways.
Okay.
Her name's been on a list for 6-7 months.
Yep.
Put it on Dakota Kai, bring up Io Shirai. But then my whole thought process was changed last night when Raquel Gonzalez came back.
Mm-hmm.
Why bring her back if Dakota's going to win the belt? I mean, they could still put the belt on Dakota, but I think something's going to happen where Dakota's been saying, I can do it myself, but then she brings in Raquel just as an insurance policy, and that insurance policy backfires.
Yeah.
Io then retains the title.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, Io's been champion, a couple months now, so this is like her first big defense on a TakeOver post winning it in your house. So, like, I want to see her have a good, lengthy title reign, so that's why I was thinking, like, she should win here. But then again, I kind of see where you're coming from. Like, Dakota Kai should win just to pay off her heel turn at War Games last year. Like, the whole point of that
even if it's Dakota Kai wins, starts feuding with Tegan Nox just so they can put the title from Dakota to Tegan or something. But when they brought Raquel back last night, I go, oh, her whole I can do it myself, but I've got an insurance policy anyways is going to backfire.
Interesting. Or let's see, Io retains, and then, Raquel, screws up and costs Dakota from winning. And then ultimately, very much like, Shawn Michaels and Diesel, like they split apart and then they go at it. So Dakota could go against Raquel, but does Raquel become a babyface here then?
Look who's booking that show. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Brian James.
Good
all the guys that were around then.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, it's history does repeat itself. And that's the thing. Listen, that was 25 years ago. So they can totally recycle these storylines again at this point. And then next up, a match that I am now looking forward to. Former NXT champion Adam Cole, taking on Pat McAfee in so last night's episode of NXT, dude, that heel promo Pat McAfee laid was awesome. I was like, I'm sold now. Like, I'm hyped on. Like, at first I was kind of like, this is Adam Cole's first match post losing the championship after the record longest reign ever in NXT. This is his first matchup. But now I'm like in, Pat McAfee calling out, not only Adam Cole, but Undisputed Era and just making fun of wrestling fans in general. Like, okay, I'm in now. But let me ask you this. Is Adam Cole and Undisputed Era baby faces now, or is this the beginning of that transition?
They're supposed to be baby faces in this feud. They want us to think that Pat McAfee, even though when it all started, Pat McAfee was the baby face, they want us to believe that Undisputed Era are now baby faces.
Man, so I'm just thinking, okay, come on, Adam Cole has to win this hands down. Like, his first match post losing the title.
Here's the thing.
You can't lose to some random former punter.
I'm going to go the opposite route. I'm going to say Pat McAfee wins because of what Triple H said on that media call.
What he said?
Triple H was asked, he was asked, so we got Pat McAfee. What's the long-term game with this? And he did this long, stretched out thing about how Pat McAfee's been a fan longer than anybody knows. He knows a lot about wrestling, and that Triple H doesn't believe this is a one and done for Pat McAfee.
Okay.
If it's not a one and done, how can you beat him in his first actual match?
Oh, my God. Oh, no. Like, now I'm kind of worried. I mean, I'm going to stick with Adam Cole. I come on, Adam, you got to pull this off. So, we'll see how this plays out. And then last but not least, the NXT Championship. Oh, my God, that video package last night between Keith Lee and Karrion Kross using Metallica, and I loved all of it. So here we are, championship match, main event. I'm so torn because, listen, I love Keith Lee. I love that he's champion. He deserves it. But Karrion Kross, man, dude, he is a special thing. Heel, babyface, doesn't matter. Just as far as the presentation, who he is, his whole style, Scarlet, all that. I'm kind of torn right now. Like, who you kind of lean towards to win this one?
I mean, Karrion Kross can't lose. Yeah. I don't want to say that against Keith Lee, but Karrion Kross cannot lose.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is like, I was thinking, it's like he has so much momentum going in this short time frame being on NXT. You can't kill that. I mean, I kind of think this matchup is a little premature. I was kind of hoping that each of them will be on their dominant winning streaks.
Right.
Kind of
it was like you said with The Fiend. He got that title match way too soon.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of hoping like both of them do their thing running parallel with each other on the NXT roster, but then and maybe their matchup could lead to their actual match could have been like, NXT, TakeOver like in November or Royal Rumble weekend.
Right. But here's the only thing I can think of is, no offense, but there's a lot of smaller guys in NXT. Mm-hmm. And if you want Karrion Kross to go out there and look like a monster, yeah, he can destroy all these smaller guys, but you also want him to go out there and show that he can hang with anybody in NXT. And there's not really many bigger guys in NXT with a name right now that he can go out there and have great matches with. And so instead of having him go out there and just squash a bunch of small guys, because who's going to believe if you put Karrion Kross versus Johnny Gargano and have them go 15 minutes, who's going to believe that Karrion Kross can defeat Keith Lee down the line, even if he beats Gargano? Because they're going to go, oh, someone as small as Gargano was able to keep him for 15 minutes and not lose.
Yeah. Okay.
So you got to put him against bigger guys. Bronson Reed doesn't really have a name right now. Damian Priest going for he's probably going to become the North American champion.
Okay.
And honestly, yeah, you could have maybe had him go for the North American title, hold that for 6 months, lose it somehow, and then go for the NXT title. But I think they kind of wrote themselves in a hole with how big of a monster they brought him out as right at the start.
Yeah, so I'm with you as far as I'm kind of leaning towards Karrion Kross winning here. And I think they just want to get a title on him, and I think he's definitely going to be called up to Raw or SmackDown very soon, sooner than later.
Same with Keith Lee.
Yeah, so I mean, both of them. So
Vince has wanted Keith Lee since he saw him at Survivor Series, and then he used him in the Rumble and was like, that guy stood toe to toe with Brock and didn't look bad.
Yeah,
like he looked like he can go out there and have a believable match with Brock Lesnar. And Vince has been wanting Keith Lee for ever since then.
Unless he loses here and he actually does get called up or something, I don't know.
Very possible.
Yeah. God. I'm kind of leaning towards Karrion Kross. Like, I love Keith Lee. I just feel bad. Like, it's a short title reign. He won it last month at the Great American Bash. He had it for a month, but I mean, I hate to say he's kind of like a paper champion or a transitional champion as far as from getting to Adam Cole to Karrion Kross. So I hate to think like that, but Richard, my co-host, he said, like, listen, on NXT, the ones that have the long title reigns are the heels, and the baby faces have the short title reigns on NXT.
Other than Finn, that's true.
Yeah, and it's all about the chase for the baby face getting that championship opportunity. So I can see Karrion Kross winning here. And then, listen, he has laid out a path of destruction of other people on the roster. So, he took out Ciampa easily. He took out Dominik Dijakovic. I mean, I hope no one comes out and tries to interfere or anything like that. So I hope it's a clean matchup between the two. So
right. I mean, other than Scarlett being out there, I don't see anybody else. Maybe Mia Yim. Maybe Scarlett tries to get involved. Mia Yim takes her out, and then that's it. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Unless Keith Lee maybe is getting submitted and Dominic comes out, try to help repeat the opposite of what we saw.
I didn't think about that. Maybe.
But Keith Lee waves him off and be like, no, don't come in. And then Keith Lee actually can defeat him. He overcomes that and actually wins. Right. I don't know. I'm so torn. But my initial gut when this match was signed, I was leaning towards Karrion Kross. And so I'm gonna stick with Karrion Kross here. All right. So that's going to be for TakeOver 30 this Saturday. Looking forward to that. And we, of course, will do a review afterwards. Let's just quickly run down through SummerSlam of all the stuff. The final topic here, SummerSlam this weekend, one of the big 4 pay-per-views for all you OG WWE fans out there. So SummerSlam, I'm actually kind of excited for this. Listen, I know Raw and SmackDown's been hit or miss. Ratings have been up and down, and some of these stories been okay. But nonetheless, I am excited. I love SummerSlam. Listen, I love WrestleMania, but SummerSlam's always had a special place in my heart. I love this time of the year, summertime. I know it's a pandemic. It's not as fun as, past summers can be, but nonetheless, this is, I'm excited for this matchup here. And so, let's run down to the card real quick. I'll start off with, let's see, we have Mandy Rose taking on Sonya Deville, hair versus hair match. I mean, obviously Sonya has to lose here, right?
Right.
They're not good. Okay. Mandy already got somewhat of a haircut. And even though her hair is shorter now, she can easily put extensions in and recreate her long, lavishing hair at some point if she wants to as well.
Correct.
But Sonya Deville, she's a badass, and I think
she'd embrace it very well.
Exactly. If she shaves her head, she can still have a badass look, part of her MMA style. And then even when it grows out, she can, get it cut to be some more like a mohawk or something down the road. So it's like,
I mean, she's dropped the hair up and square up, so she don't need the ponytail anymore.
Totally. She can just square up all the time now, be ready to go. And I will admit, so a quick little side note, we all been covering the fact that, there was a crazy stalker that broke into Sonya Deville's house this past weekend. And I'm so glad that she's okay. And they arrested the guy.
Manny was there with her.
And that's the thing. So listen, I'm being serious here. I'm happy that they're okay. That, no one got hurt. But I will admit, part of me was a little disappointed as far as kayfabe being broken, as far as, they're still friends. Like they still hang out together and whatnot. So, from a story standpoint, I was like, oh man, they really still hang out with each other. So, once again, a little reminder, kayfabe is, not as strong as it used to be, but no, anyway, as far as the actual match itself, I've been loving kind of the rivalry between the two and whatnot. So, but yeah, Sonya Deville has to lose here. And then let's jump on over, to the U.S. title match. So we got Apollo Crews taking on MVP. I'm kind of thinking MVP is going to take this one.
Really?
I mean, just to kind of really establish the Hurt Business as this, badass faction. And then I'm kind of wondering, MVP was getting Cedric's head this past Monday. So I can kind of see maybe Cedric gets involved and kind of interferes and costs Apollo the match. I mean, I
can see that since Lashley and Benjamin are banned from ringside.
Yeah, so that's what I'm kind of leaning towards, why I'm thinking it might be MVP for that. How about you? What were you thinking?
I mean, I can totally see something like that happening with MVP winning. But honestly, I just want Apollo Crews to win and then move on to somebody else.
That's true.
Because if MVP wins, then Crews is going to go, where's my rematch? Someone got involved that wasn't better. Like if they do the Cedric thing and Cedric gets involved, then Apollo's going to say, oh, you still had somebody get involved even though your other boys were banned and this and that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just want Apollo to win and move on.
Yeah, totally. Let's see what's the next one. Let's see. Okay, Dominic Mysterio making his first official match in WWE, taking on Seth Rollins in now what's being stipulation added of a street fight. Who are you thinking here? I mean, Dominic has to win his first match, right?
Right, and it being a street fight is perfect because they can kind of hide some of Dominic's maybe imperfections that he may have as far as doing a long match. I hope the match doesn't go any longer than 10 minutes at that. So, I mean, Dominic's never had an actual match. I think this is going to be not only his first match on TV, but his first actual match outside of training at a gym.
Oh, my God. So no pressure for him.
And so with that, Dominic has to win.
Yeah. Well, also, I'm just... Well, I was just thinking because, the street fight, I'm really glad they added stipulation because, as you said, to cover up how green he is. Like, if it was like no stipulation, just a one-on-one match, he probably can't perform at the same level as Seth Rollins, obviously.
Well, he's looked good in everything he's done.
True.
He hasn't seemed nervous ever. He's got a lot of confidence in himself, and that's really good with somebody at his level and his experience.
And totally, dude, that 619 he landed a couple weeks ago,
right?
That was smooth. So
at his height?
Yeah, totally. So I like, but he said the street fight can cover up. He doesn't have to worry about like doing all these major, suplexes or, all these big moves. The street fight can cover up. Oh, he has a weapon. He can maybe use that instead.
And we know he can take a beating.
Dude, no one can ever accuse him of not paying his dues at that point. Exactly. And, he got his job because of his dad and whatnot. He earned that. So, all right, we got Dominic there. And then, the Raw tag title. So we got Street Profits taking on Andrade and Angel Garza. I love Street Profits and I want them to retain. I'm kind of leaning towards Andrade and Angel Garza just because, to give them a reason for, what's the point of everything they've been going through right now? It has to pay off for something. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, unless you have a different mindset.
I mean, I'm thinking Street Profits only for the fact of they win and they, quote unquote, got their revenge on Zelina poisoning Montez Ford. Even though I was the biggest advocate 2 weeks ago of why are you blaming Zelina Vega? They haven't had any proof. And then this week there's proof that she did it.
I know. It was a quick little camera footage. Like, oh, that's it. Oh, they kind of wrote that off. Like, oh, okay.
Right.
I was kind of hoping that maybe it was the War Raiders who poisoned him and they turned heel.
Oh, Lord.
Right? Like, they all thought we were best friends. Like, we were pissed off that we lost to you in whatever competition they had.
That would be nice. That would be a almost perfect way to turn him heel.
And then they were the real camera footage, like security footage came out.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah. All right. I'm kind of leaning towards Street Profits. You kind of convinced me in that one. I'll kind of lean towards that. And now, like, 2 matches that I'm super stoked for, and I'm kind of lumping them together, obviously, because one of the opponents is the same person.
Right.
So we have Sasha Banks defending the Raw Women's Championship against Asuka, and then also Bayley defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Asuka. Dude, I don't know about you. I'm thinking Asuka's walking out of there double champion.
So here's what I think.
Okay.
You're going to get that SmackDown Women's title match first.
Okay.
SmackDown Women's title match first.
Yeah.
Sasha helps Bayley. Bayley retains.
Interesting.
Then we go into the Raw Women's title match. Sasha loses because Bayley either messes up or doesn't fully commit to helping her. Okay. Because if you remember last week on Raw, or no, it was on. It might have been on Raw.
Yeah.
Is it Raw or SmackDown? Let me think about it. Okay, so I remember what it is next. So they're walking backstage. It's Bayley, Sasha Banks. It was on SmackDown, and Bayley was like, "Yeah, I lost on Raw to Asuka. Now you have to defend your title, but I have bigger things to worry about. That I have to worry about. Now I have to face Asuka." And Sasha stopped in her tracks, like, "Excuse me, more things important." And so Bayley's not thinking like, "Oh, Sasha keeping her belt, that's cool, but it's not high on my list.
Priority, yeah.
It's all about me."
Okay. Interesting.
So Sasha helps Bayley. Bayley doesn't help Sasha or doesn't fully commit to helping Sasha. And then we finally get that build, more slow build, I guess you could say, Sasha Bayley. Because if it was me, my main event for next year's Mania would be Sasha versus Bayley.
Yeah, and try to recreate their TakeOver match from a few years ago.
Yep.
Ooh. That's a good call there. Because I was just thinking Asuka can be double champion and just really establish herself as this badass, getting back to form of her NXT days. She's a double champion. She's got both belts. And then for Sasha and Bayley, they both could be pissed off that they lost the title, and then they could also get mad at each other at some point. Like, maybe Bayley, if she's the first match out of the two, she loses quickly. And then, maybe Sasha screwed up and that's why she lost. And then she comes out and she screwed up against helping Sasha. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of similar.
Here's my other prediction I'm going to throw at you.
Okay.
Do these matches go back to back, or do they give them time between so they quote unquote give Asuka time to recover?
I would want them to give her time to recover, and then in between the downtime, do like a backstage segment, like as far as Bayley and Sasha. Let's say hypothetically Bayley lost and she's pissed off at Sasha, and Sasha's like, "Well, listen, I'm sorry that you lost, but please help make sure that I win the Raw. I retain the Raw championship." And we'll maybe Bayley be like, "We'll see about that." I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, give me a backstage segment to kind of break it up.
Because what I can see happening is the Bayley Asuka match happens first. Sasha interferes and costs Asuka. And as soon as the match is over, Asuka just goes, "Come on, Sasha, let's go now. I want you now. You just screwed up my first match. Let's not even wait."
Oh, okay, good call there. Ooh.
But that's if my scenario plays out. If your scenario plays out, then the backstage thing would work as well.
Interesting. All right. I'm looking forward to it no matter what. I love Asuka. I love that she's been on a tear again, and all the other thing too, why I think she should win both titles. It's the ultimate conclusion to her revenge story for Kairi Sane. As far as, listen, these two women here took out my best friend. She's had to retire from her injuries. Kayfabe, we all know she went back to Japan. But nonetheless, I'm upset. I'm alone now. She's pissed off. And these two heels, Bayley and Sasha, their prized possessions are these titles, respected titles from each show. So what better way to give the ultimate payback is to win both of them or take them off them. So that's kind of my thinking as well. So, but nonetheless, I am super excited. That's probably one of the most matches I'm most looking forward to this weekend.
Oh, same here.
Okay, 2 more. So let's see. Braun Strowman take on The Fiend Bray Wyatt for the Universal Championship. I mean, we talked about it in depth earlier, talking about the whole just the year in review of The Fiend itself. The Fiend has to win this. I'm thinking, I'm leaning towards The Fiend. Just make good for the Goldberg.
I would as well.
Yeah, make good for the Goldberg stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
I mean, Braun was never supposed to be champion anyway.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Roman that night at WrestleMania. Correct. So, I mean, and, his title reign's been all right. So, I think Fiend here. All right, last but not least, besides probably the Karrion Kross, Keith Lee match for the weekend, this is probably the other match I'm most excited for is Drew McIntyre defending the WWE Championship against Randy Orton. Both of them have been amazing. Randy Orton's been on a whole new level, which is this whole recent run as the heel again, taking out more legends, his promos, defeating Edge. He's now, Ric Flair's calling him the world's greatest wrestler. He took out Ric Flair. He took out Shawn Michaels. He's been taking out Edge and all these other people. Drew McIntyre, I've been loving his title reign. I love he's being booked as a strong, confident baby face here. I've been loving everything he's been doing. But I'm so torn on who to pick here. Like I know Randy Orton has a good winning streak at SummerSlams of the past. And I know like at WrestleManias, normally they always try to end on a high note with baby faces winning. So
right.
I'm like the momentum Randy Orton has right now, you have to keep that going. It's very special. And also, get the title off Drew, let him fight, build up his opportunity again to get back into that title scene. And maybe the payoff for next year's WrestleMania in front of a live crowd again. So, I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards Randy Orton. How about you?
I'm going to go Randy Orton as well because the tagline for SummerSlam is, you'll never see it coming.
Boom. There you go.
Now, what we didn't see happen, which we thought we saw happen, was Randy Orton punting Ric Flair. Ric Flair sold it like he was dead.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is, coincidentally, the lights went out as Randy went for that punt. Now, this might be giving WWE too much credit and thinking they would book like this. But my whole thought process is Randy never punted Rick. Rick's going to show up at SummerSlam and help Randy Orton win the title.
Interesting.
You never saw it coming because we're supposed to think that Rick was killed by Randy Orton.
Interesting. Oh, my God. That's a good point. And, yeah, he really oversold it because you look at Shawn Michaels this week, the big criticism that he didn't sell it as well.
There's some rumors going around that Shawn may have accidentally been kicked in the head and knocked it a little loopy for a second. That's why he didn't sell it.
Oh, my God. No way. So
yeah,
he was legit just like he didn't like fell on the ground, but he was just.
That's why he kind of was like, whoa, what happened there for a second? Because Randy may have accidentally slightly clipped him.
Oh, no.
And so he was kind of like, ooh, what happened there for a second? That's what I heard. Okay. Not concrete, though, so don't quote me on it.
Yeah, we should someone freeze frame it or try to slow replay of it. And let's look at it close.
Probably be hard because WWE probably like 17 cuts in the time when Randy ran across the ring.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin Dunn, for that. So yeah, I hear you on that one. So, but yeah, I think Randy Orton wins here. Give him another title reign. Listen, he's 40 years old. He's been 20 years with WWE. So I don't think he'll ever reach John Cena / Ric Flair's the most title reigns wins. He'll be close. And listen, I think at this point, he probably still, God, the fact that he's been there for 20 years, but he's still only 40. So he can still wrestle easily good matches for the next 5 years. So I anticipate he might have 1 or 2 more title reigns left in him, or at least maybe WWE wants to give him. So I think this might be the one of the last 2 title reigns he can get before he retires officially. So I'm just thinking, as a reward for such a great work recently, you put the championship on him. Drew McIntyre, you rebuild him. He goes on another babyface run to get back to the top. Randy Orton goes on more of a tear for the remainder of the year, and then build up to maybe. If they want to do the long form storytelling, a rematch at WrestleMania next year. I mean, who knows what the plans are, but nonetheless, I still think Randy Orton would.
Hear me out. Okay. Hear me out.
All right.
Orton wins the belt.
Okay.
Orton goes on a tear, holds the title till Mania. McIntyre later in the year gets drafted to SmackDown. So he goes for that belt whenever, whatever. But then, who's waiting in the wings for Randy Orton? Out hurt right now. Mania next year. Edge, Orton, main event, title on the line.
Wow. Oh my God. That'd be a call back to what?
You didn't get your, like I said with McIntyre not getting his pop with fans. You didn't get your Edge match in front of fans.
And so Drew can get a pop winning Universal title next year?
Right.
Okay. All right. I can see that. He can slay the Fiend next year if he's champion still at that point. Man, okay. God, that's why I love wrestling. That's what I love about wrestling. There's so many different ways you can go with the booking, and for us,
exactly.
Fantasy booking with predictions and whatnot. I love this, and I want to do more of this. This is so cool. Oh, man. All right, Tim, listen, I know we've been talking a long time. This is probably one of the longest episodes in a long time. Dude, thank you so much for making the time today. And
not a problem. Thank you for having me.
I really want this to make this a regular thing. Like I love your insight, the breaking news. That's the thing I was referring to at the beginning of the show was, as far as all the other outlets picking up your story, as far as initially there was talks of a second pay-per-view added this month after SummerSlam. There's different talks of what it was. And, we now know it's going to be Payback the following weekend. But it was cool that your story, maybe like an Evolution 2.0 and just, that story, a lot of outlets picked up on. So that must be for you.
That was really cool.
A great feeling that people, are picking up what you're putting out there. So that's why I encourage everyone to, check out Pro Wrestling Unlimited's, their website, YouTube channel, Twitch, follow everything you do, social media. I'll put links out there as well for that. But no, like I said, I love your insight. It's just the amount of knowledge that's so cool. And I definitely want to, have you on a regular and just break down all these news stories and whatnot. So thank you again.
No, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our time together.
Awesome, man. So I will, I'll get this out there and then, we'll plan for another episode. Oh,
sounds good.
Is there anything you want to plug, promote for all the listeners out there as well?
I mean, you guys, like he always said, you can follow us on YouTube. Just search Pro Wrestling Unlimited. On Twitch, we're twitch.tv/PWUnlimited. And then we're always active on Twitter as well, just PWUnlimited.
Absolutely. And I love, your live tweeting. Yeah, follow you for all your live tweeting. I love all your opinions on stuff and just, what you say in real time. It's very entertaining, all that stuff. And you got a lot of merch out there as well. So please support the guys. Everything I say you and Nick do is awesome work. And I respect the hustle, all the
Appreciate
work,
it.
all that stuff. All right, Kliqsters, let's go home now. Remember to subscribe to In The Kliq on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're on all the major podcast platforms, and help the show out by rating, reviewing, leave a comment, and share the podcast. And also subscribe to In The Kliq's YouTube page to hear all of our show highlights. And also, please follow In The Kliq on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for @In The Kliq. And thank you for tuning in. And once again, thank you for all the support. And that's the bottom line, because Huey said so.